Judgment Day for Christian Horner has arrived, and it must be said that the build-up was frankly dizzying. A will-he-won't-he cacophony struck up by speculation at either outcome made finding any kind of clarity in the build-up to the announcement like reading through muddy goggles, with much ado being made about the team principal of the championship-winning constructors being absent from media duties, but then subsequently followed by the news of Horner's journey to Bahrain being made on Wednesday, despite him supposedly not knowing the result of the investigation himself. All of this has led to the F5 key on my laptop resembling a crater, and every news site reporting on the issue likely receiving more interaction within a few hours than they typically receive in a month. Well, now the lid is off, just what is to be made of Christian Horner's future, and just how much will it affect Red Bull? And stick around because another man whose future is uncertain may just be feeling the noose tighten on his Formula 1 career. So yeah, he's been cleared. Following the probe that started a few weeks ago, Red Bull found no substantial evidence pointing towards inappropriate behavior from Christian Horner towards an employee. While this does mean for the time being Horner, Red Bull and Ford have peace of mind to move forward at the start of the season, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is done for good, something acknowledged by Red Bull in their statement. The independent investigation into the allegations made against Mr. Horner is complete, and Red Bull can confirm the grievance has been dismissed. The complainant has a right of appeal. An external and independent barrister conducted the investigation following the initial claims of inappropriate behavior, and then subsequent dogpiling by paragons of journalistic integrity such as sites that rhyme with the Shamely Flail, deciding to publicize other people that had decided to come forward with their own, more extreme and further unproven claims against Horner. As far as Red Bull and all other parties directly involved are concerned, the matter is settled, but as stated by Red Bull, there is now a period in which the complainant can bring forward any other further evidence, information or substance that may provide a necessary furtherance to proceedings. However, Red Bull has stated their confidence that the investigation has been conducted in a fair, rigorous and impartial manner. For now, Horner has joined the rest of the Red Bull team at the Bahrain International Circuit in order to kick off the season. The announcement concluded that no further information surrounding the matter will be put out by Red Bull, and thus indicating that any supposition as to the substance of the initial complaint and the investigation that followed will be exactly that, supposition. The investigation report is confidential and contains the private information of the parties and third parties who assisted in the investigation, and therefore we will not be commenting further out of respect for all concerned. Red Bull will continue striving to meet the highest workplace standards. That final line is clearly a nod to set the minds of both the shareholders but more importantly future external collaborators Ford at ease. Ford being appeased by this will be of the utmost importance to Red Bull, given their rather blunt and aggressive approach to the investigation, making their distaste at a lack of transparency throughout the proceedings clear, claiming they did not receive satisfactory answers at the time. However, it must be said this lack of transparency was likely caused by Red Bull not wanting any information to be released before the final findings of the investigation were known. Hopefully now the frustrations felt by Ford will be at ease, because a strong relationship between the parties will be integral to the team moving forward with preparations for the new regulations. The back and forth between Martin Brundle and Damon Hill in response to this investigation finishing perhaps put it best, as they said, "The statement from Red Bull is drawing a solid line under the whole thing," to which Damon Hill responded, "That's the organization judging themselves, but I think you're right. They convinced themselves they had to do it. They're satisfied, carrying on in the knowledge that they're doing the right thing." A solid line indeed for now. So recently there has been another man that has faced a lot of speculation surrounding their future in the sport, and that man is Ferrari outcast Carlos Sainz. Recently, everyone including us has been throwing in their 2 cents as to where the maligned driver will land. However, recent news from what we deem to be the top prospect for the Spanish driver has revealed that his operating window to secure a seat is far slimmer than it first appeared. The first bit of news that perhaps cuts off a long-term prospect for Sainz comes from Mercedes, with Toto Wolff revealing some interesting thought processes from the team which resulted in Hamilton's departure. During testing, we heard the news that Mercedes were unwilling to offer Lewis Hamilton a 3-year extension to his contract, instead opting for the 1+1 which allowed him to walk away from the team. At first, it wasn't clear as to why, with speculation surrounding the driver's age, projects outside of F1, as well as the new regulations all potentially playing a part of the decision. However, the real reason for this approach has now been revealed, and it paints a pretty poor prospect for Sainz if he had any hopes of a Mercedes drive for the long term, with Wolff having this to say about the driver poised for the Mercedes seat long term. There was a situation many years ago where we had the opportunity to let Max drive, and that wasn't possible back then because we simply didn't have a cockpit. Nico Rosberg and Lewis Hamilton were tied to us long term, and Red Bull naturally seized the opportunity. They gave him a contract with Toro Rosso, with the possibility of driving for Red Bull the following year. We then lost the young driver, and you can see how successful he has become. And precisely because we have a junior on the horizon who is really driving at a high level, I simply wanted to keep this option open. That's right, Kimi Antonelli, the reason why every Mercedes fan suddenly cares about the junior categories. While it has been known that the driver is destined for a Mercedes seat in the future, and that isn't exactly fresh news, Wolff continued to say that while he isn't guaranteed the seat next year, he will be driving an F2 in a position where he can be closely monitored at all of the F1 races which the series will be supporting. Also saying that they will be continuously monitoring his preparedness over the coming years to slot him in as soon as he is deemed worthy, saying, "Run a big test program with him in 2024 and then we'll see, is he ready for 2025? Or for 2026, will there be a different situation?" This clearly makes the Mercedes bid a non-starter for Sainz, as he is looking for a long-term project for the, as he says, most important 4 years of his career, and having the next generation of driver want outed as a wonder kid who is constantly being assessed year upon year does not create the conditions for Sainz to be implemented in the team for the long term and in a stable manner. It appears Mercedes will be looking to either fast-track Antonelli if he wipes the F2 field this year, or implement some experienced hands to help usher the Mercedes team into the new generation of car ready for Antonelli to have the best possible start when he is ready. Whichever way Mercedes decide to go, it would appear the decision will not take all that long to come to, with Wolff stating, "Incredibly interesting because really strong people will be available for 2025, adding that Mercedes will review the situation over the next 2 or 3 races. Do we want to rely on experience and perhaps try something new? Or do we want to focus on youth and take the risk that we have a rookie and then have to look at his form from a medium to long-term performance perspective?" The other news that came out is from Red Bull, with Helmut Marko announcing formally that the team are not pursuing Alex Albon. However, he also made clear that Sainz's timeframe to secure a seat may not also align with Red Bull's hunting season, as the advisor said, "Albon is not an issue for us, he has a contract until 2025, and Sainz probably wants to make a decision sooner than we do." Red Bull will be looking to secure their lineup after the summer break, with them leaving the door open for a Perez extension if he proves himself consistent and worthy of the seat for another year or 2. Marko laid down the gauntlet for Checo, while also hinting at what Carlos would have to display to be a consideration. Checo has to perform consistently. It's clear he can't always drive at Verstappen level. If he finishes second in the World Championship and wins 1 or 2 races, he will certainly be an option for 2025. So the outlook for Sainz, despite being so up in the air just days ago, is pretty clear. Show you are a better option for Red Bull than Perez by dominating a man in potentially better machinery. Show a consistency at the top of the field that the Mexican driver lacked last year, and be willing to wait for Red Bull to be ready to talk. It's either that, or settle for not driving at the front of the field for quite some time, as the doors are shut at Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren. Then again, maybe Mercedes' hunt for a stopgap driver with experience will open up a gap at Aston Martin, leaving some rather large Spanish shoes to fill.